Here's the setup. I'm going to make another attempt at centering my tailstock, which I've got laying down over here. It's just going to be ongoing until I can improve it, but some of the last videos I did cleaning up some materials, it's just clear that that tailstock is way off, and it's certainly more about how I'm going about it than it is the equipment. But any rate, what I'm going to do is take someone's suggestion, and I'm going to machine a bolt, which I've already started cleaning it up, but I'm going to machine it at, I don't know, just an arbitrary angle, 45, 60 degrees, something like that. Machine a point that is actually running true to the chuck. And from there, I'm going to use that. I'm not going to take it out or anything. I'm going to leave it in here, and I'm going to use that as my center point that will be running true with the chuck in order to center the tailstock. So this is my setup. I'm going to go ahead and machine a point on this piece of round stock, and that stock, as it was also pointed out, can't really see, but it's long. I've got all of the jaws, the face of the jaws clamped down tight onto this piece. It is as tight as it's going to be and should be repeatable. But for now, this is what I'm going to do, and this will be running true with the chuck when I'm done facing it, and I will not remove it while I'm working on centering that thing up. So I'm going to get going on that, and you've seen enough turning, but I'll bring you back and give you an update. Bring you back for a quick update. I've got this milled down. It's a little rough, but I don't think that matters for what I'm trying to do here. I have a point that is true to the tailstock, or to the quick change tool post in the tool, but more importantly, I believe it's true to the chuck. So let's go ahead and get this spinning a little bit, and we'll just make sure that we don't see any run out. That looks pretty good to me. Here's from the top. There's no run out as it is to the tool, the tooling. So now I have a true center point that is mounted fully in the chuck that I think I can start to try to center up the tailstock with. It's kind of just the point that I wanted to get to tonight. This hopefully won't be too long a video because it's another tailstock centering video, but I need to get this sorted at least fairly close in order to use it properly, especially when trying to drill pilot holes, center holes for mounting stuff up. It really needs to be trued up. So this is yet another attempt. So far, I'm not taking this out. This is going to stay just like it is until I start working with the tailstock. I'm just going to stop the video clip here, but I just wanted to show you, I got this milled or lathe turned down. It's running true. We just saw it from top and side angle. There's no run out whatsoever. Now we can move on to working with the tailstock and maybe hopefully get some things running true. All right, we're going to continue on messing with this tailstock again. No guarantees this video. I have messed with it, but I have got to get it to improve. Where I left off was just a few seconds ago for you, but it's been about a week for me. I got this turned down. I just chucked this up in all of the teeth of the lathe chuck, and so I turned it down, and it is now the turned portions, including the angle, is concentric to the chuck. It's as good as I can make it. I've had this spinning on the last video from all angles, and the tooling is perfectly lined up and centered. So what we're going to do is work on the tailstock now. that is the next piece. And if you know, we can do the trick with some metal, put some metal pieces between the two, but I'm going to do that with the actual tailstock when we get it back in here. And we'll try to get them aligned, you know, because it'll tilt one way or the other depending on how well it's aligned, vertical or perpendicular, or even side to side. You'll be able to see it, you know, twist back and forth like this. But I think it's time now that we have, let's go ahead and turn this on, and I'll just show you again that this is running true to the chuck. Turn that down. So if you look, we're going to turn this on, and you won't see any movement on that tip. My hand isn't steady, but you can see it's there. Let me mount you in the up here, and then I'll show you from a steady point as well. Here we are. So if I bring this back over for comparison, and I think you can see that pretty good. If we get this spinning, there's no movement between the point in this device and the tool post and the tooling. It's as good as I can make it. It's right there. So that's going to be my starting point to mess with this tailstock again. Get that turned off. So the next thing is I'll get this cleaned up. I'll get this carriage out of the way, and we'll get the tailstock in here, and we'll just see first off how far we are off from the tailstock. I'll use the dead center in the tailstock, and I'll also use the live center. I think part of the problem is my live center is cheap quality, and it does have a lot of play in it, but I'm hoping that we can get it to adjust. You know, this doesn't have to be perfect for me, but it's got to be better than it was in my last videos, especially with some of the materials I was turning down. I just did not have, I wasn't able to drill a center bore. I broke a centering bit, drill bit. I can't be doing that. I need to be able to drill a hole and support the piece, and it needs to be parallel. It needs to be lined up. So that's what we're going to work on. Let me get this out of the way. Let me get the tailstock in here, and I'll bring you back. Okay, here's the setup. I think vertical is not too bad lined up, but it is not lined up when you look from the top. It's definitely the tailstock needs to come back my way. So I think I'm going to start focusing with that first. I do have it locked down, the tailstock locked down, so it is where it is. If we tighten this up, you know, it needs to come back this way a little bit, towards the back of the machine. The front, you know, vertical, it does look pretty good, at least good enough for my needs. But I think what I'm going to do is, once again, loosen this up, mess around with all these adjustment screws, and try to get this a little bit better. Now again, this is in the this is the furthest back position that I can make this tailstock with this dead center. So I do want to center it as well once it's fully extended, but when this is fully extended, there is play in this, and no matter what I do, I can't get that out of there. So if we pull this, let me mount you up here. I'll show you. If we bring this out, so right now, let's bring it back. That's fully in. There's virtually, there's just no play. So I'm gonna have to try to use it as far back as I can for accuracy whenever I use this thing. But when you start bringing this thing out, there's play in this, unless it was my live center. But this thing, there it is. So you can see that play. So I don't know if you can see that, but if we put this back in there, I think you'll be able to see it better. See that look at that move. Can you see that on camera? Yeah. So that's the problem I was running into, I think, with my live centers, partially because I had this extended out too far, and partially because of all the slop in this. And I don't think I can get this out. I have tightened up the screw on the bottom, and then if you tighten that up too much, then it just won't move. It locks it in place. There's a groove underneath that it rides in to keep it from spinning, to keep the extendable portion from spinning around. But no matter what I do, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to fix that. I mean, this thing is locked in. It's an aluminum tailstock. I just don't think the quality is, look at that. So I think I'm just going to have to make sure when I use this, and maybe that's the right way to use it, make sure that I have this as little extension as possible when I'm trying to use the drill chuck or the live center or the dead center. So if we bring this back, if we do the same test, lock that in, now we're back to where it's pretty good vertical, but it's got a little bit where it needs to be coming back. But if we move this, notice that, I mean, you can push it a little bit, it's not moving near as much as it was earlier. So that's what I'm gonna focus on, centering it with this retracted as much as possible, and learn the right way to use the tooling that I have. I think better quality machines will be designed to work proper, whether it's extended or not, but that's not what I got. I got a Vevor mini lathe. So I have to learn to accept some of the things about it. But I do want to get this centered better, because it was horrible trying to drill a center hole. Nothing would be centered. So next steps, get this loosened up, try to get this moved over just a little bit, playing around with these adjustment screws again, and then get it tightened up. And then we'll come back and we'll see what we're looking at. Bring you back. This is as close as I can get it for now. I could maybe use just the thinnest of shims underneath the front edge of this. I'll tell you, there are no screws on the front side of this or adjustments that I can locate in order to bring this up or down. The only way I know to work on that is to put a shim right down here on the tailstock, and that's what I did. I cut a piece of aluminum. This whole thing is aluminum. It is, if you got this fastened down, if you got anything loose here, you can move this whole thing around. So I've got everything snugged up. Let's go ahead and turn this on, and again, the setup is, I put in a piece of raw material, I turned it down true. I have not taken it out of the chuck, and I turned it down so it is true to the carriage, it's true to the tooling, it's centered to the tooling is centered to the workpiece and the chuck. I'm sure somebody will point out a mistake in my logic, but I've got it all centered based off of the carriage and my tooling. The tooling was centered, and now I've finally put in my dead center, and I've got this. I had a little bit of adjustment I showed earlier. Let's turn this on and see. We got it pretty close. I'm just gonna turn this on, just turn it up to a small spindle speed. And I mean, it's not perfect, but that's pretty close. So we're looking at it horizontally. We come up to the top. It's a little bit off, but this thing is so finicky, I think I'm okay with that. As long as I can just get a center drill put in and get that thing centered up, then I can support it pretty close. For my needs, this is good enough for now, but I'm not sure how else to get that. I'll keep messing with it if it doesn't let me drill center holes or work with material, but this is what I've come up with this go around. I'm trying that method. So the next thing that I want to do before I touch, let's get this turned off. Before I touch the drill chuck or the piece that I turned down, I'm going to put in my live center and my drill chuck. And I'm going to see how those look in here as well. So this is just a dead center. It's retracted as far as I can get it back without popping it out of there. It's locked in place, and that's what I'm starting with. Again, this is not high dollar equipment. It's what I got, and I'm trying to make it as good enough for what I'm working with, but better than it was before, because it was kind of unusable before. But even when you unlock it, it moves, you know. So there, that's kind of how it was. But if we pull this back, I mean, you just lock it down and the thing moves over. It's pretty touchy. But again, for my needs, I think this is pretty good. Let's go ahead and put in the live center and then the drill chuck and see how we're looking with those two pieces. All right, here we go. Same setup. I have not touched the workpiece, which is my dead center that I created. Here's our live center. I got it retracted. Again, that's something I think I'm gonna pay attention to, and don't try to extend this out too far. Try to work with this retracted as far, as often as I can, or as close as I can. Everything's fine. The thing I don't like is this has some play. See that? Maybe that doesn't matter, but that's, so I showed, it's hard to see down there. But that's actually the retractable portion has a little bit of play in it, and it's got to do with this screw right there. This screw down here rides in a channel that's in the retractable portion, and if you tighten it too tight, it won't go in and out. But if you leave it loose, you got just the ever so slight bit of play, and I think that plays into, it's not so bad left and right, which is okay, but it's really more of just a spinning. I don't know. Anyway, I think that leads to some of the instability when I'm trying to make a center hole or hold the piece. But again, it comes down to this. This thing is as good as it is, and I'm just going to try to work with it. But let's go ahead. Forget about that for now. This is what we're working with. This is what I have. Let's see what we look like with the live center. Again, I've got it really close. It's not touching. Back up. There we go. Let's get this turned on. Turn it on. There we go. It's pretty close. That's not bad. Let's look at the top. It's as good as I can really make it, and that's the live center. Let's see if there's any. Again, I've got this locked down, so the tailstock's tight. If we move this at all, there's just a little bit of play, and I don't know how to prevent that. This tailstock will move. I don't mind that it rotates a little, because that's actually not an issue. It's the back and forth play. I guess I just got to learn to work with it. But I can't tighten it up. I mean, it's tight. There's not really a whole lot more to tighten up. But anyway, just having a live center there, that's not bad. I've got my little copper piece. It's lined up, the little copper trick where, you know, it'll move back and forth. That doesn't look too bad. Let's get the drill chuck. Let's see how we're looking with the drill chuck. Before we do that, maybe I'll try the copper thing again and show you. There we go. And I've got it pretty good. It might be a little bit up or probably down a little, but again, that comes to when I tighten this up. I could use just just the smallest of shim in here to bring this front portion back up. And I think that might help center this a little bit better, but for now I don't really want to add more shims if I don't have to. I do want to see. I guess the only problem is if that's not perfect, if you drill a hole, it's going to drill it downward maybe. I mean, that's totally exaggerated, but that's what I'm going to go with for now. See if this improves center drilling and mounting up pieces. So let's get the drill chuck in there and then we'll see how that lines up. Okay, let's see how this looks without anything in the drill chuck. This will be difficult to see, but we'll try to do our best. If we look, I don't want to hit the phone to that, but see if we can't focus in on that. Zoom in. It's lined up pretty good to the center of that drill chuck. Now I did have to bring this out because of the taper that's on here, but let's go ahead and get a dead center or something in here in order to see a little bit better. All right, welcome back. Here's my setup. I went ahead and found a small point, and what that is a tungsten carbide bit out of my scriber. I just took it out of the end of this. Now, there is a margin for error, and that would be that this has not been turned down by myself, and this may or may not be concentric to anything. But for now, it's a short, small, and what I believe to be fairly well machined center point of bit of sorts that I can get in my drill chuck to test and compare how it lines up. I can already tell you, I think I know what's wrong. That thing, along with that thing. But let's go ahead and see what it looks like, and I'll explain my final assessment of this tailstock and why I think I just need to learn to live with it until I decide to improve it with new product. But for now, let's complete this test. This is so the two center points, the dead center and the live center, line up good enough. They're not 100% perfect, but they're really good. And again, this needs to be retracted back. Okay, I decided to put this in here before we spin it. You can see that just by putting in the drill chuck. Now you can say, okay, well, yeah, but this piece here is untested and you can't rely on that. Yeah, that's fine, but it's still just a point. It, at the very least, should be okay. But you saw in just a previous clip that this was lined up much better than this. But now that this is extended, this is the problem. This is extended now, even partially, but I have to with this drill chuck. This is as far back retracted as I can make it and still have this seated in here properly to be centered. And look at that. But here, there's so much play in this thing. I mean, that's just barely moving it. It's all over the place. So, I mean, it's just, I'm just gonna have to learn to live with it. And, you know, maybe I'll have to pre-drill on the bench drill press or something on my material before I put it in there and then start centering it up. But I'm gonna learn to live with it and work around its weaknesses. But since we're here, let's go ahead and let's check this run out as well. Again, it's with this, it's a little farther that way, just I think by its nature, it moves around. But it's what I have, what I'm going to deal with. That's about as close as I can make all of this right now. I'm I'm sure somebody will point out that I did something wrong and missed a whole step. Feel free to put it down there. Go easy on me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it out as I go, learning a little bit. Mistakes are always going to be made, so no need to be harsh. But feel free to add and contribute, because there's a lot of other people going to be watching these videos, or I hope so. And I hope it helps them. I hope if they're struggling with one of these and one of these aluminum tailstocks, that maybe they'll find something useful in here, some tips, or maybe that a screw does a certain thing that they didn't know. You know, you've got an adjustment here that will put some friction under a little slot down there. There's a screw right in the center in the front. That's what controls this thing from moving back and forth and all around. But if you tighten it down, it brings your tail stock down. So I had to put a shim in here to keep it level. There is no other adjustment. I know people have said, oh, there's other ways to adjust all that. Look, I've tried. There's one on the other side, there's one here. That puts some pressure on the inside mechanisms, and they kind of move around a little. There's nothing that goes up and down. So you have one on this side, one on that side, and then these two in the back. All of them will kind of move this thing a little bit. But like the one on the back is bottomed out already. Again, this is just really difficult to get centered up. I can't put a magnetic base on here because it's aluminum, so therefore I can't put it on here and run across a piece to see, you know, if this thing is, trust me, I've thought of different ways. Again, I'm sure there's some trick that somebody who's seasoned and has done this knows. Feel free to put it in there. But what I have is a turn down dead center that is true to my workpiece. It's centered up on the drill chuck. You've seen it multiple times. When I spin it, there is no movement or play. I have my tooling centered to this as well. There's no play. And I have my dead center, live center, and my drill chuck as close as I can make them. I still don't anticipate a lot of luck trying to drill a dead center hole in some tooling, or using the dead center, but I think it will be better than the last time. But for now, I'm gonna call that adjusted. I've got everything kind of tightened down. Nothing's loose on here. And you know, I've got a tailstock I can use just to hold some pieces, but it's never gonna be perfect. It's just, this thing is terrible quality. But it's what I expected with this lathe. I did not have high expectations, so it doesn't surprise me that there's issues with it. Hey, I have a tailstock. It's somewhat usable. It can hold some pieces. I got a drill chuck that can help drill some holes. I'm just gonna accept what it is, work around its flaws, and continue enjoying the hobby. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful, entertaining. I hope if you have any questions, throw them down there. I try to answer all the comments. Again, keep the comments positive. There's other people reading. This is supposed to be for fun and for a little bit of knowledge and education for people wanting to get into doing this stuff. You know, don't go hard on me. No, we don't need to cuss and swear and all that stuff. You know, I'm just trying to learn as I go. So thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.